I feel like we need that countdown music. That do
Hey,
do 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 do.
hello.
Hello, everybody.
So you're gonna make your own music?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Yep.
How you doing, Chuck? Chad.
Chuck, Chad, Chook, Cheek.
How you doing,
Yep.
Chad?
Doing good. Doing good. We were just talking about the
Nice.
weather quickly offline. We're both agreeing that, like, what is it, about 25 centigrade and 75 Fahrenheit or something is where we need it to be more often.
Mm,
Just a
definitely,
nice,
definitely.
nice mellow temp.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite up to that temperature now. Like if I have a look now, we're probably what
Or
are
is
we
it
doing
20
today?
Fahrenheit? What was the
We're we're getting
conversion?
we're getting around 17 degrees here. So what would that be in Fahrenheit? 17 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we're still around 62 Fahrenheit here.
Okay, yeah.
Mm.
Ours
Wish.
kind of swings because, like, for my morning things, it's quite a bit cooler. I should see what the little weather thing says just for grins for fun. Because, again, for people who are out there, I'm in Phoenix. So it was like low of 48, high of 76. So
Mm.
whatever that 48 degrees,
So that's going to be like 8 or 9 degrees,
8.8.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at for the rest of the, pretty stable.
Mm.
It's nice though, because it's cool enough if you're doing something, you're not totally sweating, but you're not
Mm.
cold either.
Yeah. So, you had this really interesting topic idea for
Yeah.
today's live, which I think is it's a good topic idea. Did you wanna talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think the quick of it is this why we fall. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys follow a lot of other people, and we see so much of this. Oh, I've fallen off carnivore. Oh, I failed. Oh, you know, I had this thing, whatever. And I think there's that point of people make too big of a deal out of it. And I have this pro con to everything that I do. Like sometimes you just got to toughen up, do carnivore, be strong, and not have it again. I think I know Dave well enough to say this going out on a thing like with drinking in the past, he doesn't want to have booze again. And he knows that, so he won't. But at the same time, if he decides to have spices, I'm just laughing. Can't stand it. Like spices, I'm not going to go, oh, dude, you're not carnivore. And like our
Mm.
buddy Chuck, who's not here, is doing some nuts and some fruits once in a while. And so who cares? It's kind of like a keto, carnivore based. I just think people put too big of emphasis on it. And we were talking offline really quickly for some of you out there. Like if you've been doing carnivore for 250 days, and so you then have some lasagna one day because whatever reason somebody, forced you forced you to eat lasagna. You still have 250 days. So that 251 day that, on that day that you ate things, you didn't lose all this. You're never starting over. And I think everybody's adults. I think sometimes I think too, this will step on toes, but I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't think us older say, you know what I mean? I always throw
Mm.
you because you're what, 48, was it, Dave?
49, sadly.
49. So 40, but you know what I mean? Like in that 50 and up range, I'm just going to call it because anything 5 years up or down of that, all of us in that range, I don't think have that same, I don't know what it is, the same
So more of
mental
a
thing of like, we have to broadcast it or something, maybe to say.
you mean more of a literal kind of interpretation of things, or?
Maybe, and just how some people make a bigger deal of it, maybe, you know?
Mm.
I just think it's
So
a strange thing.
I mean, my perfect example of this kind of thing is when I think back to Joey Schwartz. I don't know if anyone remembers Joey, but Joey Schwartz, who was pretty, you know, popular in the carnivore space 2
for a
years
short
ago.
time. Yeah.
And he was interviewing people like Chafee and he was doing really well on his channel, but then one day he just had this thing where he was like, if you drink coffee, you're not carnivore. And like it wasn't like it wasn't just a passing statement or whatever. He got stuck on this thing. If you drink coffee, you're not carnivore. And okay, technically it's a plant, but it just got so fixated on it, and he wouldn't move from that point, and kind of really dogmatic about it. And so that someone that wanted to have a reasonable conversation with him, they couldn't. And because of that, the wheels just kind of fell off, and Joey, everyone kind of just felt like they couldn't have a conversation with him because it was so dogmatic. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it feels like that kind of thing, right? So that's like alcohol, as you say, like alcohol. Like my plan is to never ever have alcohol again. But if there was a day that I slipped up and it was some celebration or something, it's like, am I not carnivore anymore because I had that one drink?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Or celebrated my daughter's birthday by having some birthday cake or whatever.
And I
Mm,
think also it's not a big deal because it's just kind of a name, but it's like if you are eating some keto stuff, be proud of that. Just say, yeah, I eat some nuts and I eat some berries, and you know, I have
mm,
that. It's not a big deal as long as you're eating healthy. I don't,
mm,
you look at guys like Sean O'Mara, who obviously, the sprinting guy, you know what I mean? He's really
mm,
big on the oh, what do you call it? I can't even think of the name now. Like the kimchi and stuff and sauerkraut. What is that?
mm,
The fermented stuff. And he believes people should be having some fermented stuff, and be okay with kefir and stuff like that. And he's got the body to prove it and the background to prove it. And that's his things, and
mm,
it's like Dr. Barry drinks coffee.
mm,
Oh, so it's okay. And it's like, I don't think it's okay because I noticed differences for me. I think it's worth trying, but yet Chafee won't, and Baker won't. So you've got the big three that even don't necessarily agree
mm.
on that
Yeah.
too. I just think there's been so many videos of this thing in the last week of stuff. And I think some people have to be careful with it, you know, and what they do, and maybe just be like, hey, I did this. It's like Kip, Carnivore Kip. He had that thing with the pizza and the hot dogs, and it's like, don't, you know what I mean? But at the same time, he's doing it and he doesn't seem to be hating it. You know what I mean? He chose to do it. He's like, well, I'm going to do this and then I want to get back to it. And he's got so much to lose that's I don't have anything against somebody doing that if he's going to do it. And he's like, I'm going to plan this, I'm going to do it and whatever and then get back on it because he's got a long journey. But I think when people then berate him about it, that's not right either. You can't say, oh, don't do that because that's his journey. Just like I see some people who have been doing this for 2 years and they're still not moving like they should be. But then I see what they're eating and they're still eating all kinds of stuff that you technically can't survive on. Pork rinds, making all this stuff and doing all these things. And I kind of think if you're okay with the journey and you're okay with it being slow, cool. But if you do want it quicker, maybe just cut out those things
Mm, mm.
and don't, it might go quicker and then you could always add them back later or decide you don't need them later too, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think there's that
And
balance of
it all comes down to, what's going to work for you as an individual at the end of the day, and if having a cheat sometimes is something that improves your life and helps you stick to it, great. Um, but I know that style doesn't work for me, but that's because of my personality, you know. I
yeah,
don't have a dial, I've got a switch. It's like it's on or off,
on or
so
off.
it's yeah.
And then it doesn't go back off that easy if it
Yeah,
gets
that's
on.
right. It gets stuck. It gets
It's
stuck when
kind
you
of
turn it
like,
on.
yeah. That's true. On the detox, I think it would be good to keep repeating for newbies that detox will come around. And for some that can be pretty harsh, not to be underestimated, I guess, is and hang in there. Yeah.
Mm.
I think too, it's just also those breaking the old habits and forming new ones, man. Sometimes you're gonna be tempted by junk. And like I've said, if you meet your friend at a fancy coffee joint and end up having a muffin one day, oh well, learn from it. I
Mm,
always say
mm.
learn from it because I know some people have harangued me online. It's just like learn from it, move on. Who cares? I
And
just think it's
actually,
such a
it can
big,
be a good lesson. It can be a good lesson
yeah,
because it's like
totally.
you suddenly get that kind of feeling like, "Oh, that's how bad I felt after eating those kind of things
Yeah.
before. Okay, I won't make that
It's like an
mistake
old
again."
fashioned spanking. The little kid
Yeah.
doesn't want to do it again because the spanking hurt. That's
Mm,
basically what it can be,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the memory's enough. I just have to think about the bloating that ensues. I just have to think about the kind of what is it? The hypoglycemia, the kind of the shaking and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not for me, but you know,
I do say we
that's
can take away your carnivore decoder ring, though, so it is an exclusive club. We can stamp your card void. That's so true, though. But it is interesting. And I don't know if it is ever, I think there's something to do for clicks and some of the YouTube things when people are doing it and what they're getting from it. But at the same time, there's, and I don't know how to say that, but it's like people care, but they don't care. You know what I'm trying to say? Do you understand it all, Dave? Can you maybe think? I mean, it's like,
yeah,
okay, so you messed up. Like you said, you learn from it and just get back going. I mean, I'm curious what the people out there think too. Like watching, like if one of us goes, "Oh, well, I had a piece of cake for my boy's birthday," is it like, "Oh my gosh, unsub," or is it more like, "Oh well," kind of thing, or is it like, "Oh, he shouldn't be doing that," or and I think some of us who have been doing it a lot longer are in a different spot than say if we've been doing it 60 days. In some ways, I'd be more critical on me starting to eat cake again on a daily basis than I would be somebody at 60 days because they're going through that battle and I should be past that. Or I should just say, hey guys, I'm going to start doing like clean keto and I'm going to start doing nuts again, as an example. Maybe that's not cake,
Mm.
and I have no intention of doing that because I'm actually getting more narrow focused than ever on my meats over the years.
I your example there makes me smile. I love you're eating something like that, unsub. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, uh, those comments for me are they're the ultimate comments that give me a giggle, "You did this, unsub," and it's like, "Okay, okay." Like
Yeah. And the testing, like I do a ton of testing. I think people know that a little bit about me that I do a lot of testing to see. And sometimes, like you were saying too, I do find it really powerful because then I know, hey, this doesn't bug me anymore. Doesn't mean I want to eat it, but then there's any question of does it or not. Then I can think, okay, I've healed. The other side of me then thinks, but I bet if I continue down this road, it's going to build back up
mm,
and then I'm going to
yeah,
notice it. Like if I went back to eating nuts like I did in the keto days, I bet after a while I would have issues. Just
mm,
like me testing this cream. It's 100% carnivore. It's all good. I don't have that much, like 4 ounces a day. And I notice it. I notice the difference. So I know to kind of
mm,
stay away from it. But it's not
yeah,
that bad. I'm still at 98 point whatever percent of myself
mm. A
with comments
future.
like grow up.
Grow up,
Yeah.
put your big boy panties on
See,
with
and
visual
there is a
anger and
balance. Like I
yeah.
think sometimes though you do just have to toughen up and quit doing this stuff for a while. But I'm saying that with a very big reserve and a lot of grace, that if somebody's like, oh, I can't lose this weight, I gotta lose that, I want to get down to my goal. Hey, look at these like cheese poppers wrapped in, fried pork rinds with bacon and all this, and it's carnivore, but can you survive on it? You can do it. But I agree, there's also that like, there's that, it's a fine line for people, and there's a lot of people that are happy with those kind of things all along the way. And I even kind of sometimes give the carnivore pizza a hard time because it's kind of like a veggie burger. There's nothing pizza about it, and there's nothing burger about the veggie burger. But if you want to have it, that's fine. But it's also like, if you're having them every day with all that cheese, is it something that's sustainable for you? If you're not happy where you're at, and if you're really trying to lose the weight and you can't figure out why you're having the problem. Does that hopefully make sense too to even people out there? I think there's that, you have to look at each person, each case individually, and see why and what they're doing to do that. But there's no reason to go off on people.
I think what I'm starting to realize though is a lot of the comments as well. I just, as best I can, I try to ignore them because everyone gets those kind of hate comments, and like you don't know what's going on. The person that typed it, you don't know what's going on in their life. And it's could, they might have just shut their fingers in the door or something, and now they're angry, and it's like, put your big boy panties on or whatever, It's
my
like,
finger, you can see that gash today.
Ow!
Yeah, I got
What happened?
that tore my finger. Something was falling out of the medicine cabinet. I went to grab it really quickly, and I ran my finger down the edge of the like little mirror thing that was sticking out, and it more like tore it than anything. But it's one of those ones that it's in the spot where it burns, so it's more of like a burn feel than it is that cut feel.
Ow!
Like, oh, I'm mad now.
That looks really sore.
Yeah. So this one, I'll let you tackle this one first, and I'll give my thought.
Hello,
and feel free to comment on those for helping them out too, people because I know a lot of you guys out there are good on this.
Hello, I'm on day 9 of Carnivore and I feel very tired. Passed out on day 7. Is it okay to add juicing and also not going to the bathroom for number 2? Well, so first I would say, I'm not a doctor, but my experience is that, excuse me, at the beginning you will feel tired. Okay, it's a bit scary that you passed out, but you will feel tired because I'm not sure what's happening, but yeah, I mean your body's switching over from one energy source to another, and you're kind of in a period now where your body's going, what's going on? What's going on? You've shocked it. Is it okay to add juicing? Look, if it's going to work for you, but you do need to understand that juicing something is, what are you juicing? Fruits and vegetables. So that's not going to push you forward with your goals. But I would say, you need to make sure you're not passing out because that it could end up being dangerous. So, if you need to add something back a little bit to kind of feel normal again and then might gradually remove it again, then I would, definitely be doing that. And if that's juice, then go for it. And as far as going to the bathroom, you're not going. There's two kinds of not going to the bathroom. There's the not going to the bathroom because you can feel you feel like there's something there that you've got to get out, but it just won't come out. And then there's a feeling of, well, I just don't need to go to the bathroom. And typically on Carnivore, it's the second feeling. It's like, I don't need to go to the bathroom. And a lot of people, when they first start, they get confused that they feel like they're constipated because they're not going to the bathroom as regularly. But that's because you're not eating foods that can't be absorbed and need to be, just pushed back out. So yeah, that I wouldn't be worrying about that unless you feel constipated. Chad, did you have anything?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say the passing out, was it one of those things like where you sat on the couch, you're watching TV, and all of a sudden you're like, that kind of thing? Or was it like you were standing in the kitchen and it's like smacking your head off the counter, kind of passing out? That would be the curiosity of that. The juicing thing, I'd kind of say like Dave is, if you can get away without it, I would say maybe look into like bone broth or something too, if that could help. But I've always said too, doing like clean keto, I don't know where your background came from. Like I was a pastatarian, as I call myself, so it's kind of like I came from the carb addicted side. If you came from a heavy veggie background, oxalate dumping, things like that, even weaning yourself into this carnivore by still having a few veg and just, cut it down every week, half, then the next week, half that, and then pretty soon you're down to nothing. So in that aspect too, yeah, like if you made a little 4-ounce juice, I don't think that's going to hurt. I would say try not to, but if it's, there or not to hurt, but I think it'd be better if you're thinking that's going to help you is just to try it and see, but maybe just have an orange instead of the juice or something like that. And the same thing for going to the bathroom. A lot of people do kind of stall off for a while. So, but yeah. And also, what are you eating on carnivore? Is it like fatty meats like ribeye, chuck, or is it really lean meats? And are you getting enough fat? How much is there? Because if you're under eating a little bit, which is fine, I think in the beginning, you gotta start somewhere. And you might have started under eating, you might start overeating. So I wouldn't worry too much, but it's like it's weird how meat just absorbs into your body so naturally, and you really end up not having to hit the head, as I call it, as much as you do.
And
So
I think
yeah,
that's a good sign that we're probably doing the right thing. The fact that it does get
I think
absorbed.
we should boot them right now. They had ramen. We should just boot. Trying to make a joke of this. Hopefully, you guys are good with sarcasm. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like we were both saying, and I think all of us agree. Then you kind of go, okay, yeah, I guess maybe the enjoyment isn't there, and you might have ramen again in 6 months and go, yeah, okay, no, and then that next time somebody offers it to you, just be like, yeah, no way, I'm done, thanks, kind of thing. I like that one, and it's funny because I read that in his voice, from the Star Trek. Someone who took a DNA test and found out my DNA literally have higher risk of food addiction. I can relate to people falling off. Yeah. I think too, it is that, it's just also personality and what you grew up like. It's tough. I mean, 4+ years carnivore. I don't know why, but I still go by sometimes like a cupboard that had nuts and stuff and just open it. And I don't know why. It's just this weird I have no, you know what I mean? I'll just be like, oh yeah, okay, it's in there.
Is
that
a
I don't know.
past life of being a squirrel? You have to go and check where the nuts are.
I guess, but you know what I mean? It's just a strange, because it's the one cupboard that has like all the stuff. And I know sometimes, I think it's when I'm busy thinking of what else I'm going to be having, like, okay, I'm going to go prep some dinner and I'm hungry, but I'm thinking hard of something else in my head, or I'm watching, because sometimes I walk around like, with an iPad in one hand, then I'll set it in the kitchen to watch like a video or something as I'm prepping, and I might be predisposed with it. And then I'm kind of like, what did I, why did I reach for that? And it's just a weird habit that I can't get out of. I agree with this. I don't know why any of us care what someone else eats. I think sometimes it's curiosity. I think sometimes people who are starting carnivore like I am are curious for that aspect of like, okay, can I compare it to myself? How much steak is this guy eating, versus what I'm eating here, and what is he eating? But then again, if it's like, me at 5'11", 180 pounds, if you're someone that isn't in that size range, you might be able to see what I'm eating because you're curious. Well, how is he getting these results? And I'm eating what he is in proportion, and it's not working. then you might be like, okay, well, that's just you. And that's going back to, and I know Dave will say this, and all you guys out there who have been doing this a while will say it. You just might have to find your ratios that work for you with fat and protein and what
Mm,
works. Because how much fat I eat doesn't relate to how much fat, Dave eats or anybody else eats. But it is true.
mm.
So I can see both sides, but it is people love to butt into other people's business though, then comment on it. That is kind of funny. I think
Uh,
in the beginning, were you ever more strict in the beginning with your with looking at other people, Dave?
um, I don't think so. I don't think so. I was just harder on myself because I mean, my
Yeah.
personality is a lot like Soda Machine's just been talking about. You know, if I'm not strict, she just Soda Stream just mentioned if they're not strict with themselves, it's 2 months down the line, they're like, what happened? You know, I'm exactly the same. So yeah, I my focus was heavily on me.
Yeah. I was pretty
Mm,
critical. See, like I when I came from the keto and started the carnivore, the problem is at that time there wasn't a lot of people online and I didn't know exactly what to do. So I think I started going down the um pork rinds and sour cream are carnivore and it's okay. So I'd just be
mm,
eating a bunch of those while I'm prepping food. And then obviously I wouldn't be able to eat enough good solid meat. And I knew to make a break. I knew this wasn't right. And I was going down the same keto aisle, eating keto chocolate cookies, thinking this isn't right, to way too much of this other carnivore snack thing. And this isn't right. Way too much of the cheese, way too much of that stuff. And then I just had to pull away and tell myself, no, I can't be doing this. And I think that's where maybe I come from, where I say you've got to sometimes just toughen up and go, okay, I know this isn't right. I'm not feeling good. Cheese is
mm,
so addicting. Just don't eat the cheese. And sometimes it does take a little bit of toughness to yourself. That doesn't mean you
mm.
have to come on our channels and go, I'm going to get them, or anybody else's. That's kind of the thing.
Mm.
Oh, another one
I
that we're going to have to pull the decoder ring for. They drink coffee. Oh, no.
so
Here's
I'm
what I would say on coffee. Try giving it up at some point in your life, 1 year, 2 year down the line, and see what you feel if you notice a difference. I drank coffee till 2 years into my carnivore journey, and then I noticed a difference. So I do kind of beat that dead horse that you should try. Never saying quit, just try and see what happens. And if you can drink it, I'm probably just jealous. That's the flat. I think some people just get jealous that somebody else can eat pork rinds and sour cream and be happy and content and not get frustrated. You know what I mean by that? Like, I think some people too, like, well, I can't do it, so they can't do it, kind of thing.
yeah. It's
There's a lot of that.
it's some kind of projection, you know. Nathan's got a
Yeah.
funny comment there. At what time would it be? You're 2:59. Um, so the irony is those who care about others eat uh, those who care about others eat likely care very little about you. You know, so the people typing,
Yeah.
oh, you shouldn't be doing this. They don't care about you. They just want to vent something. You know, they just want to. So it's
Yeah.
important to, I think it's important to not let it get to you. You know,
Well,
which
you
is
guys all probably
something
know
that I've
Laura
been
Spath.
learning on Twitter recently. Sorry,
Yeah.
chat.
You guys all know Laura Spath out there. You know Laura Spath,
Mm,
right? She's been doing this like, I think like a year longer than me, like 5 years now or something like that. And she'll do stuff that I won't do. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do it. And I think sometimes like all the cheese bakes and all the other stuff is one of those like things why you're always tempted, but she's controlled it and her husband's controlled it. So they don't have an issue with it. And while someone like me can't go down that aisle or Dave doesn't want to go down that aisle, they're perfectly fine and they do fine. And they've been doing it 5 years and they're doing okay. So you can't say you can't do that because you've got somebody that's long term doing it and they're happy about what they're doing. It's like the bratwurst that have a little bit of stuff in there. You know, they might have 2 carbs in a bratwurst, but she likes the Costco bratwurst. And you know, they're good. I don't really ever do them, but I could do them, but I'm happy with my minimalist lifestyle of just 2 cuts of meat, 3 cuts of meat. But I think that even gets to that point where, like the cheese and the dairy thing, you know, I do think you got to be careful with it. But again, it's not a big deal if somebody's doing a bunch of it, or the same thing with a bratwurst that's got something. And the same thing with deli meats. I know those can be kind of weird. You know, like I would never eat McDonald's burgers or anything. If I go out on the road for something, that's just a fasting day. I just won't bother. I'll wait till I get home. Or I'd rather hit the deli than have, you know, just get some roast beef or something at the deli. But again, that's just that personal, you know, we all have to decide what we're doing. And these days,
Yeah.
I'm still on my lamb kick. I'm actually going to make a video. I started taping some stuff on doing the bone broth I've been doing, but I put cream
Oh,
in it.
nice.
I do put
Huh.
cream in it, and it's so
Cream.
good. Yeah,
Cream.
cream in the
Interesting.
bone broth. It is so good. And then I take that little, I call it a whiskey, and I know not whiskey like you're drinking, but the little frother, the little, you know, for like you would whip your coffee with, and then you whip it in there, and it's, man, it's really good.
Interesting. I'm having a hard time reconciling how the two things go together, like bone broth, because to me, it's like bone broth is basically from, you know, animals' bones. That's like putting cream on your steak or something, you know, it's like,
Yeah, I guess it is though. But it's good when
oh,
you do it. It just adds this richness, mouthfeel, smoothness, creaminess to it. You know, and
yeah.
it's not much. In a 16-ounce thing, I'm probably adding maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons of cream. You know, just a little bit. So like
Mm,
literally it's like, you know, this much on top, the jar thing goes up that much. And it's just in these ball jars. I make 16 ounces. The interesting thing about the lamb chops I've been eating so much of and making it, the amount of lamb chops that I eat in the one sitting, which it tends to be anywhere from 6 to 8, makes it basically a 16-ounce thing of bone broth, which is awesome. So I get double use out of what I'm buying and making. So when I'm done for like a week of eating, because I'll eat red meat about 2 days a week now, and then lamb about 5 days a week. So I literally also have like a week's worth of bone broth from the bones. That's awesome.
so,
My wife doesn't like it. My wife doesn't. No, maybe tomorrow I'll try it. No, maybe tomorrow. No, maybe tomorrow.
so how is meal prep at your place? Like, is I can't remember. Is your wife doing the same with you,
No,
or
I'm trying to get him
you're
to
kind
go
of
clean
eating
keto.
separately?
Yeah, I'm trying to go clean keto, but they don't do it. So I have a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old, and obviously my wife. And my boy loves ribeyes. He doesn't, he's okay with the chuck stuff, and he likes the lamb. So he'll eat that sometimes with me, you know, and he likes burrito. So he has a lot of burrito meat, but he's still eating the whole burrito and the wrapper thing, but he's 15. So I don't push him on that. And I keep saying, you know, try doing this more. And my wife loves her veggies. So I'd like her just to go clean keto, but not yet. One day, maybe, kind of thing. So it's not a big deal. And that's where other people say too. And that's an interesting thing, even about this, why, you know, why we fall or why we fail, whatever you want to call it. Some people are like, oh, I've got people in my house, it makes it so hard. Now, I'm not saying that it's not hard for them, but then you have people like me who do have 2 teens in the house, you know, and there's chips and there's candy and there's cookies and there's grandma sending stuff, you know, at times and
Mm,
stuff like that. So I've got all these temptations. You just, again, because I took that first year so strict on myself and just said, no way, I got to lose this weight, you know, and I lost over 100 pounds in that first year and have kept it off and maintained it because I just don't go down that thing. But I've also said this before, and some of you have probably all heard this. I'll have a bite or two of my kid's birthday cake on their birthday, and I don't think that's a big deal. I'm just kind of celebrating the birthday with them, and it's only 1 or 2 bites, and that's it. And then sometimes around Christmas, I'll try something like I said, this last Christmas, I had a bite of cinnamon roll because I used to love cinnamon rolls, and don't really care for them. The weird thing is I don't like chocolate. We got in some other, like there was some chocolates that my wife got from a client, and they were these really nice chocolates, and I tried to bite, and they were really good. And it was interesting, but then like if I try this other chocolate, it's really bad. So there's a weird thing going on now. And it's probably, again, it was just around New Year's. So I basically probably won't test, if you will, because I'm just really curious sometimes too how it changes like every 6 months, like where I'm at with how things taste to me.
Yeah.
And I think after about 3 or 4 times, I don't need to keep testing it. I'm just, curious where it is. And the problem is when you're only testing something every 6 months or so, it takes a long time,
Right. Yeah.
because that can be like 2 years just to kind of figure out. But I'm one of those people that's very easy to just say no. I can just cut it off and say no. It wasn't that way my first 3 months, but for carnivore, but it was tough for the first 3 months of keto. But keto allowed me all this chocolate garbage and all the cookies and all the things. So I think keto was a good way to break into this because there was so much junk that you could eat. There was just alternatives.
Yeah. There's too
So that's why
many
I'm
of those
also
things.
okay. Yeah, there's way too many now. And that's why I'm also okay with people doing keto for a while and do it for 3 to 6 months. And then you'll start going, okay, I think I've got a hold of this, let go of that. And then you just got to let go of keto to get into carnivore and then get into clean keto. Because now everybody's kind of coining that term clean keto. But yeah, if you've been hearing us talk about the cream, can I use double cream in my coffee? I'd say, yeah, go for it. Have your coffee, have your cream. Cream's way better than milk or non-dairy creamers. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can do dairy very well. So I enjoy
Cheese.
milk, cream, and cheese a lot.
Milk's one of those things that I say you got to be careful of because there's a lot more carbs in milk and the sugars and the lactose, in things with milk and not cream. I know Dave and I share that. Go ahead.
I tried cheese again yesterday after having a break for
nice.
like it's 6
Where's
or
my
something
disconnect
months.
button?
And I was like, yeah, I'm not so crazy about this anymore. So I'm like, yeah, probably not going to do that again.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it, though? Isn't it weird, though, when you think like, oh, I got to avoid cheese. I got to avoid cheese. Oh, I really don't care anymore. That's the thing about testing that I love is when you get these things to me like chocolate, like, I really don't care for this anymore. So you just don't bother. What is funny is once in a while, and it's happened this week, for some reason it's happened this week like 2 or 3 times. Like our church has in between, like after the one service, like a meal that they do. And they had chicken teriyaki, which is one of my old favorites. And I didn't even try one piece of the chicken. I just didn't really care to, but it was like, oh, don't you want to, did you have the chicken? No, don't eat that stuff. Well, what do you mean? Kind of thing. Or like the same thing, like at the Bible study, somebody will bring in something. So there's usually a little like some donuts or, something set out. And I tend to say the same thing. And I maybe have to change my wording. It's like, oh, I don't eat that junk. Because he's like, oh, do you want some donut holes? And I'm like, no, I don't eat that junk. And he's like, junk? I'm like, you can have mine, man. I just don't eat this stuff anymore. It's nothing on you. I just don't like it. I don't care to eat it.
Yeah.
Even if you had beef jerky, I'd probably ask if you had the kind with sugar in it, and I'd say no. So don't be offended.
Yeah.
But it is funny, though, how that works.
Stick to beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, plus my coffee with a little heavy cream. And
then put that in a blender. See, I think there's a lot of coffee people. I still say try at one point, and some of you guys know I was a huge coffee guy. Espresso was my thing. gave up coffee, but my husband clings
Hey,
to his
Jan.
20-year carnivore anniversary. Cool. Congrats on that.
Yeah.
1 year.
Congratulations.
So are you in for life, or are you ever going to do? I'd be really curious if you're totally in for life, or if you're going to kind of maybe add some keto back in. So there's a lot of coffee people. All you coffee people are just fine. Eggs disturb my gut.
Hmm.
A lot of people are, though, lactose intolerant when they find out. I think, too, after you've done carnivore for a while and you heal up, you start to notice the sensitivities more. Before, you were so numb to all the sensitivities, you didn't notice.
Hmm.
There you go. Yeah. Cream of cow soup.
So Jan
Finish
answered your
ketchup.
Jan answered your question there. She's, I will never go back.
Yeah, nice. I got to catch up on the comments here. Quick hi and bye. I'm probably late on that.
Hey, Sandra.
Hey, Rick. Rick.
Hey, Rick.
Me ketchup. So now what are you eating besides the Japan meat? I think most people know that. Japan meat, your ground, has a little bit of pork in it, right?
That's right.
So you're still
yeah,
doing your meat
40%
and
pork.
eggs. When you ate the cheese, did you eat it with your thing or just had a chunk of cheese?
No, I ate it mixed in with some scrambled eggs, and
Okay.
I would always have that because I think I used to feel like eggs on their own were kind of a little bit tasteless. So it was always just to add some, I don't know, zest or something into the eggs. And yeah, so I did that yesterday and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it anymore. Yeah, I'm happy to never do this again. So yeah,
Yeah.
I won't be adding cheese back in.
See, and if I didn't have the no gallbladder thing, and if that Parmesan cheese didn't work, I'd totally cut out the cheese. But it works. I try to cut it out once in a while, and yeah, not good. So it works. So
the cheese, like that just helps give you
it just
gallbladder
basically
arrest,
doesn't let, yeah, it
or
just
your
helps absorb the fat. It doesn't just rip through me, because if I don't have it,
ah,
man, it just rips through me pretty darn quick. I can notice it because I like doing OMAD. So if I'm gonna sit down and eat like 2 pounds of chuck, or 2+ pounds of lamb, and if I don't have it, I can just kind of feel my gut kind of making all these things. And just like, I'm like, well, what time is it? I better not have to run the kids anywhere. I think I'll just stay home. And so it just basically puts me right back to almost like I have one. And when I was talking to Baker about it, I don't know if it's like the casomorphine in there, or just the fact that, cheese does make a lot of people constipated. So I think it's just basically trying to balance that out. And it's quite a bit. It's about 3 ounces of cheese, 3 ounces of hard Parmesan cheese. And sometimes it's just, like I've just got a really good sense how much I need. And I just have a few pieces beforehand and a few pieces during and a few pieces afterwards. Kind of works, because I played with eating it just before, just after. But I kind of notice if I have it before, during, and after, works the best for me. And it works. Lamb, I have less of an issue with than the beef, which is interesting. And I'm going to have to do a video on the lamb thing, and I'll have some kind of little clickbaity image title, but it's like, it's interesting because I don't know why. And people have said, well, lamb isn't aged, so there's less of a histamine response with me. And the fact that the lamb is a little bit different than meat, I guess, in its nutrient profile, but I feel better eating lamb than I do beef now, which is a strange thing. And again, if I didn't test it, and I wouldn't know it. And the goat, I just don't like as much as the lamb.
Mm.
Calling you. I would say if it's calling you, eat it. So what's this? I have up my last 2 vices for the first yogurt and not still holding on to the coffee. Oh, that's good then. From a
Mm.
month back now, giving that up. See, and I think that's the other thing is like when people do that kind of stuff, like take a while, they're probably in this for the longer haul because they're not hating life. You know, I think
Mm.
once if you can't give something up right away, don't. I'm always saying again,
Mm.
sometimes you do have to be tough and you know, and kind of do something. Like I've got no problem with nuts or yogurt or, you know, those kind of healthy things, even if it's some veg. I would say if you're eating cake or donuts, you know, you need a boot to the head, you know, kind of thing. But it's like, yeah, especially the veg stuff.
Mm.
Like, you know, I'm not for it, but if there's people that love it and it works, that's just clean keto and that's still perfectly fine as long as
Yeah.
you're eating a lot of meat with it. See, look at how much coffee drinkers are in here. Mostly to water. You know, the interesting thing though, when I do get up, especially on these cold mornings or something, when I'm up early, that what is it? We're holding a like my bone broth with the you know thing, the heat, the warmth, everything else. There's definitely something. I don't know what the word is, if kinesthetic is the right word, but there's something about the feeling and the ritual of having a hot mug in your
Mm.
hand too that those kind of things bring. There's definitely
Definitely.
something
Yeah.
about that,
And
you
it's
know.
the whole thing. It's the smell. It's
Yeah.
the steam coming out of the cup. It's everything, you know.
Yeah. And it lasts a little bit, you know. It's not like
Mm.
you're just kind of sitting down and doing it. You can kind of have it for a
Mm.
little bit.
You savor it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the one thing with my bone broth too is like I don't skim the fat off it when I make it
Mm.
because I like that fat layer that's in there. And then when I blend it, like I said, the cream kind of acts as an emulsifier, you know, and will kind of help suspend the cream. So it's not
Mm.
like I'm just drinking the fat off the top right away. So it tends to work pretty good for me that way.
Mm.
But it is good. Do you ever have bone broth, Dave?
I've never had it. Never. Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
love to
And
try
I
it,
don't know
but
if
yeah,
it's
just never had it.
I don't know too if it's mine being homemade that makes it better because I never used to really make it that much, you know, and everybody raves about it. And like when it's cold, if I take it out of the thing, it's like jello. I mean, it's like a super
Ah, okay.
gelatinous bone broth, like
Mm.
in its, you know, liquid form in the fridge. It's like definitely going to be rich in collagen and all the other stuff.
And once you warm it up, then it's more of a liquid.
Yeah, then it's just purely a liquid.
Mm.
And I've kind of found, and again, I'm going to do a video on it, but I can spill it here without any issue. It's like I do mine in the instant pot, and then I take all the bones, and I've been testing it. I'm still going through like finding out which way I like it best, and I'm saving up the bones again here for my next batch. And since I grill all my meat, the bones are really grilled. But I think what I'm going to do before I put them in is I'm going to take them back out and grill them one more time, just like, you know, the empty picked over bones, and just grill them to get some color on there and see if that makes a difference. But in the
Mm.
instant pot, I've played around with various things and I don't add apple cider vinegar that some people say, oh, you have to add apple cider vinegar because it pulls more nutrients. You know, and I found some papers on that and the nutrient pullout is nil.
Mm.
And I can't have apple cider vinegar. Dave will never do a live with me again because I'm not carnivore, you know. But it's like I found 2 hours with all the bones in there and then I pull it out, drain all, you know, the stuff, and then I pour my bone broth through like some paper towels and a sieve because I like mine
Mm.
super, super clear. I didn't do that. I just kind of did a rough strain, but I like it as this super clear because there's this mouthfeel smoothness to it. Maybe it's that coffee and that texture of smooth coffee that I like in the
Mm.
espresso because espresso has way more texture than regular, coffee. There's actually that thickness to it. So then I'll take it 2 hours with the bones, take out the bones, strain it through paper towels and a sieve, and then I put it back in the Instant Pot for 1 more hour and cook it. And I did a bunch of A/B. I did a bunch at like 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. And then I did some without the double cook afterwards. And that double version is just so much smoother. There's just a smoothness to it when it hits your, mouth and the palate and everything. So that's the only thing, and we talked about this before. That's the only thing I'll do that kind of takes a little bit of work. Otherwise, Dave and I think, are in the same spot. We tend not to try to make fancy things because I just think we both don't really care. And there's a lot of us like that for the extra hassle. I'm not going to take the time to make a carnivore pizza or, make all these fancy big, you know what I mean?
I think
Dinners that take me an hour and a half to put together.
I think the thing for me is I spoke to DC about this yesterday, was like one of the major benefits for me about carnivore is just the time saving. And so I can't go back to creating all these elaborate meals and all this kind of thing because I like having all this freed up time. So just cook it and done. Cook, eat, and then get on with the rest of your life,
I think also this brings us back to this why we fall kind of thing. I do think there's something that people have to be careful about if they've got a bad food addiction and they know they're doing this. If they try to substitute too many of these carnivore pizzas and too many of these carnivore nachos and too many of these, like, taking something, the fried chicken thing, that it can hold them there. But at the same time, this is that, again, that kind of, both sides of the coin. But at the same time, it might help them get through carnivore. Does that make sense? There's this real double problem with it. And I think that's where people sometimes have that balance. So I say, go for it if it helps keep you on. But if you're finding you're making it just because you're used to doing that and you kind of want it, just say no and see if you can get away without it a little bit longer each time. And then like a year down the line, bring it back in. Because I do think there's a lot of that. You're just replacing, keto was that problem. I can't have chocolate chip cookies, but I can have chocolate chip keto cookies. And, nice. Neither do I, of course, as I just said. Yeah, I just decided it's not needed. And I did it to tell, and I could not tell the difference in the flavor at all. But it's like, why add it if I can't tell the difference? If it was like, oh, so much better, I might have kept it up because I'm not against some, but well, thank you. Good. Leave Dave's for good. No, just the more the merrier, man. This is like, again, there's so much good information out there from so many people. And I know you've got to head out here in 6 minutes. So we're going to be this will be cutting right on the half hour. I've been using bone broth that comes off my roast and the tallow that comes from it. Delicious. Yep. I used to, when I would do the chuck stuff, eat it, but I also find that the lamb fat that's in the bone broth doesn't bug me as much as the beef fat. I'm trying to find out more information, and everybody has their theories and why, lamb is more mellow, but I haven't really figured that out. Because if I eat the broth stuff that comes off, like when I make like a bunch of chuck roast or something, sometimes it's kind of like, like more cheese, stop. I used to love cooking, but now I get made. There's one thing to wash. Yeah, that's the washing. And it's just, and that's why, like myself with what I do, like why I grill outside, 99% of my meals are outside. I set up an outside kitchen kind of thing. There's no mess to clean up inside. My food comes off, it's on a cutting board, so I just rinse off the cutting board. I have my knife, my chopsticks.
You're like all Sean Baker about your eating as well.
Yeah, I always eat off my cutting board because nothing really touches it, and it's just a little cutting board. And I think we've talked about that. Like I use chopsticks. I just like them. I'm used to them. I like it too because you can pick up all the little pieces. You can't do that with a fork. You got to kind of put your finger or use a knife, or something to slide it on the fork. And I also don't like it because then you're poking the meat and you're kind of like smashing it and everything. Like with the chopsticks, you can just pick it up nice and delicate. And so I cut everything up. Like I cut all my meat up. So it's just in this huge cut up pile. And I just sit there and do it.
Oh, nice.
And the weather's getting nice, so I'll be outside eating again. Otherwise, too, I probably stand up for 8 to 9 out of 10 meals. I don't sit when I eat.
Interesting.
I like to stand when I eat. So
interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things. And what I was doing when the weather's nicer and the sun's out, I'll go out and eat without a shirt on outside and try to get some vitamin D.
Son John Man is way of eating, and I make the carnivore chicken nuggets or pizza for him sometimes.
I'll throw my channel in the comments there. It's just at Minimalist Carnivore. Make sure I spell my own name right. I don't know if that'll carry through from that, but it's at Minimalist. I think it's in the name there. I think right there too, you can see it, but the Minimalist Carnivore. Yep, Dave channel. I'm on a bunch of channels. I still watch quite a bit of other people. It's hard to get time. Oh, somebody did put it in there for me. Thank you so much for doing that for me. I'm behind on the comments. I'm bad driver. Bad driving. At least for this. I like to stand when eating too. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel better when I'm standing and eating. Eat the cut up steak. Yep. See, and sometimes I'll put it in a bowl, depending what it is. Sometimes I will use a bowl. I have these really cool Hello Kitty bowls that I use that I like.
Hello Kitty bowls? Nice.
Yeah. I've had Hello Kitty stuff all the time. We used to be into all that kind of, stuff even back in the 80s. My wife and I used to have these little Hamushins. I should pull out one of my Hamushins for one of the live thing. It's like one of the...
This is from Hawaii.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff in the islands. There's a lot of that influence kind of stuff. They actually had like an aisle of, well, there's so many Japanese stores there. There was so many things. And the chopstick stuff, a lot of people out there still eat a lot of poke, the cut up fish stuff with it. Slow cooked chuck roast. What's interesting is I like chuck roast still in the sous vide and then grilled or put on a carbon steel pan the best. But again, that's that personal. If you stand to eat, you may have come from a long life of. There you go. Yeah. Could be. Or you have a bunch of dogs that are big enough that they could jump up on the table and you want to be taller than them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show those hello. I think like in some of the videos I'll be posting of what I'm eating, you can see them. They're pretty cool little bowls, glass bowls. But yeah, so hopefully that was a fun hour for you guys. Hopefully the chat got, you know what I mean? I think again, it's just we gotta not worry about all of it. And there is a point when you have to toughen up and just quit eating certain stuff. But at the same time, you're not failing, you're not falling, you're learning. And if you like Dave and his cheese, now he knows he probably doesn't care anymore. He probably was kind of always curious for a long time because we had talked about that a few times.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
That one's the last one to go out for you.
Okay. So let me answer that one before I head off. So how long did you live in Japan, Dave? And I suppose beef is still expensive too. I lived in Japan 85 to 86. Wow. So that was 85 to 86. That was real bubble times in Japan. And by bubble times, I'm talking about economic bubble, when like everyone's spending money like crazy. I've lived in Japan coming up on 18 years. Early next month is my 18-year anniversary. Beef is expensive, but it's not it's not as bad as, you know, probably it used to be. Yeah, it's probably, for the ground beef that I buy, if we're talking in US dollars, it's probably $5 a pound, maybe. I don't know if that is that expensive. And that's just from the local supermarket, which is going to be more expensive anyway. But yeah, so about $5 a pound.
I pay about $3 to $4.50 depending on where it is, you know, and the grade and stuff. So that's
Yeah.
not too bad.
I will say though that is 40% pork, so you know it's
Yeah.
technically not ground beef. So
Yeah. Pork here is
Yeah.
cheap. Like you can get pork butt here still at the stores a lot of times for 99 cents a pound.
yeah.
So yeah.
So Iken says beef in Japan is cheap compared to Australia. That's interesting. Yeah, last time I was in Australia, I didn't get to any supermarkets, so I wasn't able to check that out. But yeah, I can see that. The interesting thing is, if you buy Australian beef in Japan, that's relatively cheap. Yeah, it's the local stuff that's expensive here.
My Australian lamb went up in price. It went up to about $5.95 for the little T-bones, little chops I get now. It was a little bit cheaper, but that's still cheap even for like Australian. You know, it's not New Zealand, it's the Australian. The New Zealand stuff is like $16 a pound, which is makes no sense.
Wow.
But it's that much more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's made of gold coming from New Zealand.
Yeah. Well, I know Dave's got to jump. So, as I would say,
Thank you so
stay
much,
carnivorous,
guys.
my friends, and a hooey ho.